Isn't Tassoul changing a little bit? No. Mr. Munding, you're joining the Metzger Tassoul show today without Tassoul, because I know that was one of your stipulations that you would come on if Shane Tassoul was not on. So I appreciate it, and I worked it out.
Thank you.
No, in all honesty, I appreciate you coming on, and you know, we'll get started here officially in a second as we're going live. But Shane is out today. He's out of town on vacation, and I said not a problem. We were off last week, so I didn't want to miss 2 weeks in a row. And I did think of you because I think your story can resonate with a lot of school owners in the industry. And again, we'll start. Resonate. Yep, that's the key word of the day, resonate. And also your executive director, Mr. Frank Silverman, everybody. Thank you. That's the secret word. Anyway, so Mr. Munding, before we dive in and get started and try to motivate and inspire and resonate with everybody. What's he did you put something in his coffee this morning? What? Here he comes. Anyway, Mr. Birch. So anyway, before we get started, how's things in your neck of the woods?
They're nice. You know, the weather's great, blue skies. You know, it's like 90 degrees each day, so it's good.
All right. So here's what I'd like to do. Good morning, Mr. Birch and Mr. Johnson, or good afternoon here on the East Coast. And you're 3 hours behind us now, right, sir? Mr. Munding?
Yes, sir.
3 hours. But where are you exactly? You don't change time zones, do you?
No, we don't believe in that stuff.
Very nice. And it's cool. It just gets confusing when we have scheduled calls or something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, hello, everybody. I see you guys chiming in. And so Mr. Munding, again, tell me, when did you start your school? When did you open your school or start your business? What year? Do you know? Remember?
I took over the school in 2006. Took it over from my instructor. It started in 1984.
So your instructor started in 84. You took over in 2006. And when you took the school over, first of all, before we even dive in, tell everybody where you're from. Where are you at?
The west side of Phoenix, a town called Peoria, Arizona.
And were you when you took the school over, were you a full-time school owner, or did you have a full-time job and you were a part-time school owner?
No, I was part-time school owner.
Harry, we just lost Mr. Munding. All right, guys, I hope you're still with me. So, all right. So anyway, guys, Mr. Munding is coming back up. How are you, sir? Well, we're waiting for him to get back up. Let me give you a background here. I want to bring Mr. Munding on because I think the story is difficult. Story in my mind, right? A lot of times we're just successful. People come on that are doing 60, 70,000, 100,000 a month, and it's not always attainable in one's mind, especially if you have a school that either A, you just opened. Hold on, Mr. Birch, am I breaking up on you guys? Hold on. Hold on. Anyway, so his story, as I was saying, if you see people that are extremely, oh, here's Mr. Munding. Hold on. There you go, Mr. Munding. Can you hear me?
I'm gotcha.
All right. Don't know what happened. So, all right. What I was telling everybody is a lot of times school owners in our industry, I think your story is going to resonate with them. I think that people will understand where you were and you're, you know, for years and years and years, because a lot of times they'll hear consultants in the industry talk about, we sign up 50 students a month. We're doing 100,000 a month. We have 5 locations. and it's not something that people can really relate to. And I think they think that's so far out. And I love your story as far as where you were. So you were saying you were a part-time, you took over in 2006. You were a part-time school owner when you took it over.
Right.
The school. What was your main job? What did you do for a living?
I was a fire chief in a neighboring city.
Okay, so you decided that martial arts was your passion, I assume, and that's why you wanted to take over a school?
I took it over because my instructor and his wife were ill and they couldn't continue running it consistently. So I took it over to make sure it stayed where it was. We could service the students and they had an income.
And so when you took over the school in 06, how many students did it have?
In 06, we had about 80 or 90, and then something happened in 2008, and we went down to 50 something. So
okay, all right. So you took over a school with 80 to 90 students. In 2008, it went down to 50 something.
Right. The crash, everything happened, and everybody got all panicky, and we dropped our numbers. We were doing month to month back then too.
Okay, so you were doing month to month programs. And do you remember what the school was grossing back then?
We weren't hitting 7,000 a month back then. We were less than that. It was the first 3 years I owned it, I lost $60,000 trying to keep the thing afloat.
That's commitment. What made you stick with it when you lost $60,000 in the first 3 years?
Well, because when I took
Mr.
it over,
Munding, let me ask you, am I breaking up with you a little bit?
The picture pixelates a little bit. That's it.
All right. I just want to make sure that because Mr. Birch had said it. Hey, guys, chime in and comment if you guys can see us okay, or at least hear me okay. Maybe I'm getting a little pixelated here, but just chime in whether or not I see Mr. Feld. And Mr. Feld is where? He's out in Norway. Okay, so I'm getting text that we look okay. So, all right, so let's continue. So again, you lost $60,000. Okay, lost $60,000 in the first 3 years. Why did you stick with this?
Well, because I had made a commitment. I took the school over, like I said, because my instructors needed a consistent income. I had an income from the fire department, so I wasn't worried about that. But I needed to make sure that this stayed afloat for them and for the students that we did have.
Okay, so that's a rare commitment, by the way. Not many people would stick that through when they lose $60,000 in 3 months. So 80 students within 3 years. In 08 or 2 years, we dropped down to 50 some students. And then how did you build it up over from say 2008 to 2018? What did we do?
Well, I was just struggling. I could never crack 70 students. I could never break that glass ceiling. I'd get up to close to 70 and I'd drop back down to 50 again. So it was very frustrating, but I'm not too smart. I keep doing things. But I did recognize that I don't know everything. When I was fire chief, I always hired people that knew things I didn't. If we both knew the same thing, one of us wasn't needed. And so Mr. Silverman and Mr. Dillard showcased this program at a UFAF convention. And I said, I know I don't know this, but I need to hire these guys. I need to get on board with this because I'm just spinning my wheels.
Okay, so let's back up. So first of all, tell everybody what UFAF is. What is UFAF?
It's Chuck Norris's organization, United Fighting Arts Federation.
Okay, so Chuck Norris, how many schools are in that organization?
I want to say close to 80.
Okay, so about 80 schools. You and Mr. Dillard is good friends with Chuck Norris for 40 plus years. So he had asked Mr. Dillard if he would come out and speak to the group. And what did they do? Talk about the MAIA program or the MAIA Elite program at the time?
Yeah, Mr. Norris wants his school owners to be successful. Doesn't want people scraping by and having to work 2-3 jobs. And they came out and talked about MAIA Elite. And it's like, it made a lot of sense. And I had tried other programs during the time that I had first bought the school and dropped a bunch of money and didn't get anywhere. It was like there was always that secret part was missing. You know, when you get a repair manual for a car, they don't tell you need this special tool, and something was always missing on it. And I told Mr. Dillard and Mr. Silverman, I said, look, this is my experience. This is what I need. I need somebody to tell me to do A, and I'll do A. Tell me to do B, and I'll do B. Okay, because I didn't know this stuff. I know how to break stuff. That's about it.
Very good. Okay, so this was what, 2018?
Yeah.
Okay, so 2018, and in 2018, how many students did you have in your school?
We were still at 50, 55, and they said it was my elite was $1,000 a month, and it's like I don't have $1,000 a month. I don't know where I'm going to get it, and my wife wasn't there, so I was without adult supervision. So I said, okay, let's do it. I just took a leap of faith.
When we heard you were willing to lose $60,000 in 3 years, we were like, we got to go after this guy. He'll pay the $1,000. I'm kidding.
But so, I didn't know where it was going to come from, and I just followed each thing, and every investment that I've made on the plan, what you guys have recommended, has paid huge dividends.
So let's do this to paint the picture. So you're at 50 some students in 2018. You had been in business for 12 years.
Right.
So in 12 years of running your school, we're still at 50 some students.
Right.
Okay. Now here we are 4 years later. Let's just talk about 3 years later, 2021 from last year. How many students do we have now 3.5 years later? How many students do you have?
235.
200. Now listen, everybody, if you're watching this, if this doesn't look, and what's wonderful and also frustrating at the same time is I see the same people on here all the time, which are the people that, you know, I want to say buy into what we are saying, right? A lot of elite members are on here, but this is where if you go to tournaments or you have other school owners you work with, the only way we can help this industry is get the industry, more people in the industry to give us a chance. I mean, that's it. You were running a school for 12 years. 12 years later, you're at 50 some students. You jump on board with us, and 3.5 years later, you're at 230 what?
235.
235 students. We, you know, if we just know how to do this, I mean, that's all I could say. So first of all, now let's talk about the how. So people are sitting here listening saying, okay, well, you ran a school for 12 years, you have 50 students after 12 years, and in 3.5, you go to 230 without saying, well, I just listened to you guys. Tell me about the mind shift. What is it that changed in your mind, or what did it that got you close to 200 more students in 3.5 years when we couldn't crack 55 in 12?
Well, I knew right off the bat, even before you guys, that I couldn't keep doing everything myself. But I was doing everything myself. I was trying to teach all the classes, 4 or 5 classes a night, trying to do intros, talk to the parents, and do everything else. I said, this just isn't working. You know, it's not even a job. It was it was worse than a job. And I knew I had to divvy up the responsibility. So one of the best things I did is I took my top black belt, made her the lead instructor on the floor, said, okay, you've got the floor. You know what needs to be done out here. You know what we need for the black belt test. And then I started working on the front half of the house. Between the two of us, we divided and conquered. And now we have 4 instructors that we pay. And I take care of the front half of the house. And we're next step is a program director.
So is it safe to say that you were working for 12 years and you couldn't even pay yourself, and 3.5 years later, you're paying 4 other people and paying yourself?
Right.
I mean, it inspires me every time we hear these stories, and these stories, you know, it's consistent as somebody mentioned, I think in a comment, that it's the consistent theme. And look, there's other consulting companies out there that can do the same thing, right? we've brought on people on this show that are doing an average of 120,000 a month. And then Mr. Munding, you were doing 50 some students. So let's just say this, in 2018, what were you grossing before you joined?
2018, well, I was averaging $100 a student, and that was just on tuition. So it'd be 5,000 months. What is that? 72.
Okay, so you were doing
That was
72,000 for the year, or 60,000, 5,000 to $6,000 a month. So anywhere between 50 and 62,000 a year.
Right.
Okay, so let's take it monthly. You were doing around 5,500 a month. What'd you do last month?
41,000.
And how'd you do in the first quarter?
First quarter, well, we've been breaking records. COVID has been very good to us. We've been breaking records all the way through since COVID started and growing. When did it hit? 2020, we were up 8%, above 2019. And then last year, we were more than 100% above that.
How long did it take you to start seeing the results when you jumped on with MAIA?
It was right away, because I couldn't have kept going. I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have an extra 1,000 a month. And so I started generating that, and it was paying for itself. And then just kept going from there, following my instructions.
So let me ask you, if a school owner came to you that had 50 students or was grossing 5,000 or 6,000, without the funny answer of saying, I tell them to join MAIA, without doing that, what advice, from what you know today and what you've learned, what would you tell a school owner that feels like, I just can't, two things. I can't seem to get through this barrier of 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 a month, 10,000 a month, number one. And number two, I'm afraid that my quality will suffer if I start focusing on the business. What can you say to those people?
Get out of your own way. We're limited by the 6 inches between our ears, and we're really good martial artists, and everybody grows up and they get a black belt and they think, I'm going to open up a school. It's not that easy. There's a business mindset, and there's things that you need help with, and you need an accountability person. Someone to say, okay, did you do this? Did you do that? Just like working out. If you work out by yourself every day, it's easy to start slacking off. But if you have a workout partner, to help push you, you make huge gains.
And what about, what is it that if I said, tell me one thing I can do to just, if you had to give me one piece of advice just to make an impact, to start growing my school, besides get out of my own way. If I said to you, because this is what people want to know, right? Everybody wants a shortcut. First of all, is there a shortcut?
No, there hasn't been a shortcut. It's just, keeping the nose to the grindstone and not giving up.
So I agree with you there. There is no shortcut. The shortcut is if you have somebody that knows exactly how to do it and they're just telling you what to do. But we're pretty honest. It takes work. It takes commitment. I think you showed that losing $60,000 in the first 3 years when you took over the school back in 2006, you were committed, right? But if a school owner said, look, I'm at 50 students, I need to get to 100 students quick, what can you tell me? What's one thing you can tell me to get to 100 students quick?
Well, first you have to have good quality product. The floor is where it's at. If you don't have something good going on out there on the floor and excitement, you're not going to be able to sign the people up, or you're not going to be able to keep them. Don't try to do everything yourself. MAIA Edge, and not even MAIA Elite, MAIA Edge has a lot of great resources on there that you can access, and try those things. There's not one of those things is a home run. It's base hits all the way. Just got to keep hitting a base hit. There's so much information. It's like drinking from a garden hose, or fire hose. I mean, you got to pick and choose and try one thing and implement it. And if it doesn't work the first time, doesn't mean it's not good. You need to see what happened. And that's where the coach comes in. Okay, I did this and it didn't really work that good. And then we tweak it, because it's all fine adjustments, like sailing. We got to adjust the sails as the wind changes all the way across. I used to be a sailor, so.
So, Mr. Munding, are you a full-time school owner now, or are you still with the fire department?
No, I'm retired from the fire department, and this is my full-time gig.
And when did you do that?
I left the fire department and tried teaching high school for a year. That didn't work. In 2016.
2016, you left the fire department. So even being full-time for 2 years in your school, we couldn't crack 60 students.
Yeah, I was having a real hard time with it, but it's like the snowball going down the hill. It just starts picking up speed as long as you don't stop. It's kind of like your advertising when people get tight on money, and I was that guy. Man, I can't afford to do this ad right now. The minute you stop doing that, it has a synergistic effect on the outcome. You got to keep pressing forward, keep the systems going there, and eventually it starts to click and work for you.
So listening to your story here, here's what I would tell everybody watching this, right? If you want to be successful, stop making excuses and justifications on why you're not successful, number one, right? Meaning, well, I don't want to be like the excuses, like on why you're not successful. I don't want to be a McDojo. I want to keep my quality high. We keep our quality high, right? I mean, your quality hasn't gone down since before 2018 to today, has it?
No, we changed the way we're presenting the material on the mat. The way I learned, 100 years ago, kids don't do that today. They're wired different with instant gratification, instant information from the internet, video games. It's got to be faster and exciting, and breaking it down into smaller pieces because their attention span is so short. And we just changed the structure on that, and the kids are having a blast. I mean, our retention last year was, you guys are going to think I'm nuts, but Mr. Tassoul can attest to it, was less than 2%.
It's unbelievable. It really is. I mean, less than 2%. And by the way, there's people watching this that don't really understand how exactly to calculate attrition. And some people on here may think they keep all their students or they're under 1%, but they're not. They're not. And we would do an audit for anybody that wants to go through it. But here's the one thing that you said that's the secret to success. And that is, when you do something and it does not work, you don't give up on it and say, well, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work here. The people in this community are different. What you said was, I need to tweak it. I need to figure out what I did wrong, tweak it and fix it. And then it will start working. And that is a mindset that not everybody has, because they will try something and then again, they will start making excuses on why it failed. Well, it was raining that day. My community's small. The demographic here is poorer than, in my case, Orlando, Florida, let's just say, right? Excuse, as opposed to look inward and say, wait a minute, maybe I didn't do this completely correct. How can I tweak it? Because listen, everybody, the moment you start blaming everything else, the moment you do that, you've lost control of your outcome. You've lost control. If you say it's the community, you're not going to change the community. You're not going to change it. So even if it is the community, you got to change. As you said, like sailing, the winds change. You got to change the sail. You're not going to change the wind, right? So you can't blame the community. We can't blame the economy. Listen, a pandemic hit. COVID hit. We had to close doors. Well, this guy had a record year. You had a record year during COVID, right?
Record 2 years, yeah.
Okay. But how many people went out of business, closed their doors, or dived in their income and said, COVID killed us? COVID killed us. COVID killed you because you didn't change your sales. I'll stick on the sailing analogy, Mr. Munding, right? You didn't change your sales. You cannot keep doing the same thing when the world is changing around you. You can't do it. You've got to adapt, and you got to have control of your life and of your success, period. And that by itself is the secret. And also, Mr. Munding, not everybody is willing to do the work. Some people want to bring MAIA into their lives or another consulting group into their lives just to say, hey, I hear all these success stories. I hear it's great. I'm going to sign up. They're not on the meetings. They're not on the calls. They sign up and they think a miracle is going to happen. It doesn't work that way, right? I mean, right. Mr. Munding, how often, and here's the thing I see with successful people too, how often in the last 3 years, on an average, were you on the phone with somebody on this team asking for help, advice, or questions?
I think I got a private line to you guys because I call so much. You know, I call probably a couple times a week into the office there, or and then contact with my coach, say, hey, I need some help on this. And then my neighbor down the road, we talk a little bit once in a while. Mr. Birch, he's on the other side of town, and you know, hey, what are you doing here? How's this going? And because you don't have all the answers, and if you sit here and you try to do it all yourself and you don't get some outside input, to me, it's very overwhelming, and you know, it can be very depressing. You know, there's a lot of times that I've had my toes on the edge, and you know, you guys have talked me back off. I would say, no, you're doing good, because it's like, man, I'm just so frustrated. You know, when people stop, one of the key factors to me was keeping track of the numbers, because when you lose a couple of people, you think, oh my gosh, my school's falling apart. I'm losing all these people. But you don't realize, hey, that's part of the business, and we're actually on an upward trend. And, you know, you got to have the bigger picture. And that's where you guys have really helped me out, was with the big picture.
So let me bring this up. I remember Mr. Munding. So this is important for everybody. We talk about stats all the time, right? And how important it is, because stats is going to help you grow your business unbelievably. So Mr. Munding has, let's just round it and say 230. Let's just say 230 students, right? If you are at a 2.5% attrition rate, that means you're losing almost 6 students every single month. If you're at a 2.5, right? You're losing 6 students a month. Well, Mr. Munding called and said, I don't know what's going on. I'm depressed. I'm losing all these students. That's because for 12 years, Mr. Munding only had 50 some students. You were now with 230, you're losing more students than you were signing up in a 3-month period, probably. And to you, it looked like the bottom was falling out. Now, we want to keep all our students, but we had to remind you, stop focusing and try and putting all your focus on this retention, because your retention rate is phenomenal. You're at a 2% attrition rate, 2%. Keep doing what you're doing, but don't get depressed and let this drag you down and everything else suffers, because it's not a problem. No matter how great you are, you will not have 100% retention rate. You will not have it. It's impossible. Why is it impossible? People move, get bored, get sick, go into other activities, lose their job. I mean, you're not going to have so when you're at a 2%, we cannot let that drag us down. Now, if you were at a 6%, we don't get depressed. We just go to work. And now we can justify focusing on this area because it is a problem. But you were focusing on an area that wasn't a problem, and it was distracting you from all the other areas that were more of a problem than your retention rate. Because if you're at a 2% attrition rate, everything else is a bigger problem, because that's not a problem at all, right? So I think people need to understand that. But if you didn't know your numbers, or you didn't have stats, or you didn't have us to dive in and look at this, you would have gone down a rabbit hole there where there was you weren't going to find anything, right? Mm-hmm. So it's important that people understand the numbers, and this is why we talk stats all the time. However, stats is a boring topic. If I put out that next week on the Metzger Tassoul Show, we're going to talk about stats, we'd have 4 viewers on probably, right? But it is probably the most important thing, right?
Well, so it is, because when I was a paramedic, you know, you could look at the patient and you see one picture, but then you look at all the vitals and everything else, and it paints a totally different picture. And the stats are like your vital signs. I mean, you've got to know that stuff so you get the overall picture.
So, Mr. Munding, you've learned so much in the last 3.5 years, so much about the business. What kept you in the family, like, and what's going to keep you here? Do you think, I mean, in order, is it because you expect to learn something new every single week? Is it the accountability? Is it the comfort of knowing you have a team behind you? What is it that keeps you in the program, so to speak?
Well, it's all of that. It's, I don't know what I don't know. And just because I've hit some really good numbers right now, I can't sit here because, if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. And I need to keep improving things. My goal was to provide jobs to high school or college kids. I killed me when they'd get a black belt and they'd go down the street and start flipping burgers. They wasted a lot of talent, a lot of effort. And I wanted to be able to provide some opportunities there. But not knowing things, knowing that there's more, maybe more pieces of the onion, all these analogies, but there's so much there to uncover. But the accountability is a huge thing, and having a team. Like I said, when I started divvying up the work, not trying to do it all myself, and have an awesome team right now, it made the world of difference. We can't, as much as we think we're superhuman, we can't do it all. And so it's all of those things there together. But you can't necessarily do it all at once. Don't try to do it all at once. You got to do it one step at a time. Like I said, base hits. Do one thing, get it working. Okay, now go to the next. That's what my coach, I told him, I said, tell me to do A, I'll do A. Once I get that done, tell me to do B. Don't jump all around, give me this abstract picture. And the coaches painted exactly what I needed to do, and got to where I am now.
So, Mr. Munding, just to be clear, you did 42,000 last month?
Yeah, 41, yeah.
41,000 last month, and in your first 12 years, you were doing around 5,000-6,000 a month.
Right.
All right. Do you have an after-school pickup program that you do?
No, you couldn't pay me enough.
I'm sure we can. No.
You will. I'll find somebody else to do it.
So I think that's important, because when you hear these numbers too, everybody, some of you that do an after-school pickup program, that's phenomenal. That's great. But it's not something that's necessary if you're somebody that feels like, I'm only doing $5,000 or $6,000 a month. I've been doing that for 10 plus years. Well, he's doing 40,000, or he did 41,000 last month. Had a record every single year, right? We're breaking records every year. Yes. Yeah, breaking records every year, but we don't have that. And I think that's important, so you understand that systems for your evening classes is what makes a difference. He also, Mr. Munding, you also said something that was really interesting, and I don't know if people picked it up, but you said you had like 50 some students and you were charging $100 a month, and all your student value was like $100. All your money and all your revenue was from your tuition payments.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was month to month.
Oh, and month to month. Well, let me ask you this. Why were you doing month to month?
Well, my philosophy was if they didn't want to be there, I didn't want them there. I didn't want them to feel like they were obligated to have to be there. So I was thinking I have to sell this every month by the service I'm providing so that they're happy, so that they stay.
Do you still try to sell the service every month, regardless if they're on an agreement or not?
Yeah, because people are gonna cancel their agreements if they want to. They'll change their credit card, change their phone, whatever, and just disappear. And you have to sell it every day. Every day that the kids come out there, you guys say it, and I believe it. They're one day closer to black belt or one day closer to quitting. So it has to be a continuous process. But the month to month, we had tried agreements or contracts earlier. My instructor had that bounce back and forth, and it just didn't seem to work right. And so I just took an easy way. So I'll just do month to month, but then I couldn't plan, I couldn't budget. So it made it more difficult.
How hard was it when we had recommended you do some type of term? How hard was that for you? Or was your mind made up at that point saying, I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do? Or was that a hard transition knowing that they tried at your old school contracts or whatever, it didn't work. You didn't want to do it. You had this belief, I'm just going to do month to month because if people want to be here, I got to sell it every month. How hard was it for you to transition to a term agreement?
A lot of this stuff was hard for me mentally, but I did. I took that leap of faith and said, you know, I'm paying this money. These guys know what they're doing. They're obviously successful, and that's who you want to surround yourself with, are successful people, and do what they're doing, because I knew what I was doing was wrong. And it was hard. And, you know, and I had my existing students that were already there paying month to month, and, you know, transitioning them would have been a challenge, but you guys worked me through it. Anybody new came in, we started on the agreements, and now everybody's on agreements.
And I just want to say this for all the other consultants. There are some people out there that are successful in their own right that do month to month. However, I'd love to get in a room and I would tell them that they would be even more successful if they had some type of term. But when you went to a term, Mr. Munding, percentage-wise, not the number of new students that you would get, but percentage, did your percentages of enrollments go down? Meaning if you had 10 people come in and try a class when you were doing month to month, and let's say back then you signed up 5 of them, now that you have a term and 10 people come in and try a class, are you still signing up 5 of them, less or more?
Well, I'm signing up more. They don't know. That's always one of the questions I get when I answer the phone. Do you guys have contracts?
So you get that question, okay?
All the time. And
right.
I always say, we have a program, you're purchasing a program, you have different ways you can pay for it, however you want to do that. If they come in, great, they're qualified lead. If they don't come in, they weren't the right fit for us necessarily. Not that I don't want to have everybody, but I got over that part of it mentally. It's like, you know, they want to be here, great. If they don't, you know, they're going to go to a Parks and Rec program or something like that. And those are good. We actually got a Parks and Rec program that we're teaching out of our school. It's one of our big feeders. The city sends us people. They go through the program just like every other student. When they finish, then if we did a good job, then they stay. We sign them up.
So, Mr. Munding, how many students were you enrolling on average? Do you remember prior to 2018?
Prior to you know, I wish I could tell you. I'd be lying if I did. I've enrolled 5 this month right now. How many students are you enrolling now on average? Did 5 so far this month. Yeah, I was gonna try to pull it up. I had my stats here. In last month I did 10. So there's not, you know, I'm not hitting those numbers like, oh my gosh, you're signing up 50 people all at once.
That's right.
It's just the consistency, a little bit over time, and I go from there. So 231, and so I did 224 in March, beginning of March, and I was at 231 at the end of March. Okay. So, you know.
So here's what's interesting for everybody. I want to make sure everyone listens to me on this. One of the things about the systems and what we do is we have systems that work for everyone everywhere, right? What you will not hear us tell you is we're going to get you 20 new students every month, because if you are in a smaller town, that is not something that is as easy to do as if you're in a very densely populated town. However, there's other things we do to focus more on retaining your students, increasing the value of your students, keeping things exciting with your well, we do this in foundations, your schedule, your programs that you offer, your pricing structure, how you present that. But here's Mr. Munding. What do you think? Would it be safe to say you average 10 new students or less than 10 new students a month?
I would say less than 10.
All right. So everybody listen, Mr. Munding averages less than 10 new enrollments a month, but he went from 50 some students to 230 some students in 3.5 years. So we're not going to sell you a bag of goods and say, look, when you come on with us, we're going to tell you how to enroll 20 people a month, because you may not be able to do that. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now, the people that are in these denser areas, these higher income areas, well, they're not doing 40, 50,000 a month. They're doing 100, 110, 120,000 a month. But it's like, are you happy doing? You happy when you do 45,000, Mr. Munding?
I'm very happy. It's
right?
not coming out of my pocket, and it's exciting. It's like, I don't want to trivialize it, but it's like playing a game. And my instructor gave me this before, Mr. Potter. He said, you keep score by the money. The money isn't what you're doing. That's just how you keep score. And
that's how you keep score in business. I mean, in business, look, if we open a business, we open a business to produce a profit. So you keep score by how much revenue can your business generate.
But we don't lose sight of the retention. That's a real big one. Like, we did a huge parent night out last month, which was a blast. And the parents see this value added service, like our picnic coming up in 2 weeks, our Christmas party where we bring in Santa Claus and have a huge pizza party for everybody. They don't have to pay a nickel for it. They say, wow, they really care. And I get that comment. I had a new student this week just sign up. The mom said last night, I really like this because it's a family. Yeah, we're making money at it, but they don't feel like they're getting nickel and dime to death. And I don't like that as a consumer. I'm making sure that we're providing the value, and that's why we're holding on to the people.
Was that a fear, Mr. Munding, when you were first coming on? Was that a fear that we might teach you something that may seem like we're nickel and diming your customers, or did you not have that thought?
Well, and I still don't do a lot of retail. I only provide the things that they need, not gee whiz stuff. Yeah, I was a little skeptical about that, or worry about that, because I hear about it. There's dance school down the street from me. Every quarter there's another outfit we have to buy, and more of this, and we got to buy this, and got to buy this. And so I capitalized on it. And I said, no, this is all you guys need for this. There are opportunities, but you don't have to keep shelling out money and probably open your wallet every week, because you have a budget. I have a budget.
So let me ask you, this is a pop quiz. I'm going to put you on the spot. What's the best way to sell retail? Have a pro shop? Is that the fastest way to sell retail?
No, integrated sales.
Integrated sales and packages. And you've heard me many times. Have you heard me ever say, do not sell a customer a package that you're not going to be using in class? Have you ever heard me say that? No. What I'm saying is, don't sell a customer a package just to sell them a package.
Right.
Only sell them a package that you will be using in class. Don't sell them a package and say, well, this is so you can practice at home. If you put something in a package, have the students bring it to practice or to class, and they got to bring their equipment, because we need it for our program. So we only want to sell what we need. However, you have ancillary sales. There are parents that come to you and say, hey, I want to buy a WaveMaster for my house so my child can practice. Great. We'll sell you the WaveMaster, but we don't package WaveMasters in packages or in integrated sales necessarily, right? So these are the things, before people get in here with us, they might have a thought that we try to nickel and dime, or we're trying to get every drop of money from these customers. But it's not like that at all, is it?
No, I mean, we're providing a service, and the value has to be there. The customer's going to vote with their wallet. If they like what's going on, they'll spend the money. If they don't, they're not gonna.
That's it. And we don't like to we don't force people to do. You don't force a parent or kids that they have to attend X amount of parent night outs each year, do you?
No, but they're selling out.
That's
we
right.
Put the cap on it, they sell out, and it makes it more exciting and more desirable for the next one.
So everybody, listen, we come on this show, Mr. Tassoul and I, we come on and we always try to give you some tidbits. Every week we try to give you tidbits, information that's going to help you. But every now and then, you need more than just information. You need inspiration. You need a kick in the ass a little bit. You need something that's going to get you to take action, to implement that information, or to do something different. That's what I think this show was today with Mr. Munding, because again, the majority of this industry, Mr. Munding, has less than 100 students. That's where they're at. The majority of this industry is grossing less than $7,000 a month. And what I love about your story is you were doing that, but for 12 years you were doing that. For 12 years. Do you know how many people would second guess themselves, their community, their area? If I was doing this for 12 years and I can't crack $6,000 a month, for 12 years I've been doing this, why would I now invest in a group and all of a sudden think the world's going to change for me? Now you did 41,000 last month, right?
Right.
That's what I think is inspirational. And you're right, Mr. Hanzu. No, he doesn't quit. And it's dedication. I mean, you were determined to make this work. So I think that is great for everybody to hear. Is there any closing things that you would like to tell anybody that watches this?
Like I said at the beginning, get out of your own way. Realize that you don't have all the answers. And listen to successful people and implement those things. You could listen all day long, but if you don't do it, then it was useless. But listen, do what's recommended, try it. If you didn't work out, see what else you need to do. We say that when the kids go to break their board when they come in. If you don't break this board the first time, you're going to give up. No. Well, we train champions in life. Life doesn't always work out the way you want it to. You got to keep trying. May not work out the first time. You may need to find a different way to do it. And that's what I just kept doing.
So, Mr. Munding, MAIA Elite is not the best kept secret in the industry. It's not a big secret, right? And I'm not saying we stand alone. I can only speak for us because I'm not in any other groups. But you're on the meetings. You're on the meetings with 100 and some people on these Zoom meetings that we do. When I ask people every month, how many broke a record last year? How many broke a record? Is it an anomaly, or is it the vast majority?
It's the vast majority, and I felt intimidated when I was starting out and not having as good a month as everybody else. And now at 41,000, I still feel intimidated because it's like, man, I'm not even close to these other guys. And if they can do it, I can do it.
That's exactly right. And that's the attitude. So look, we're here to try to help, we're here to try to help. But again, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. Maybe you inspired somebody that's watching that's going to do something to change their life. But I want everybody to remember this, not that we want to be inundated with these calls, but Mr. Munding says on average, he calls twice a week, because he wants to stay on track and make sure he's grinding and doing what it takes to go from 6,000 to 41,000. For some of you, it might be 40,000 to 70,000, right? Regardless, you got to put the work in, and you got to know that if we fall flat, it's us, not anything else. It's us, and we got to tweak whatever it is we did, and we got to fix it. And we're here to help you do that. We're here to hold your hand and get you through that. So, Mr. Munding, I appreciate it, sir.
No, I appreciate the privilege and honor of being able to be on the show.
Yeah, this is such a big hit show, isn't it?
Well, it is to me.
Thank you so much.
As long as my competitors a few blocks down aren't watching it, I'm good.
Hey, help everybody. If you can help the competitors raise their standards too, it's good for everyone. I'll leave you with this. If you don't believe me, watch this. Is there an area in your town, everybody, where the nicer restaurants are all in the same area? Like restaurants are like all in one area. How about car dealerships? Where there's usually a car dealership, they're all there, right? Elevate the industry and everybody wins. Everybody wins. So
it does. It helps the whole industry because we undercut ourselves. We don't have our prices where they should be. One of the first things I did when I took over the school is I doubled my prices. I lost half the students, but I was still making the same money. And because my time was worth a lot more than that, my vision for employing people was there, and I knew I couldn't do it with what I had. So um, we're undervaluing our services. These places that are selling it, doing the classes for $40 a month, $20 a month, that hurts all of us, really.
Right. And you may have just scared everybody when you said, when I came on, I doubled my prices, or people might be like, oh my God, I can't join them. They're going to tell me to double my prices. No, we'll tell you where you should be at, but we'll also tell you how to do it in baby steps and, do it right. Obviously it works.
Well, and you guys didn't tell me to double my prices. I had done that already, was one of my thought processes, roll the dice, and it worked out. But, you guys had me tweak my prices. As a matter of fact, since I took over the school, it's a bad thing, I think, but I have not raised prices since 2006. Matter of fact, I lowered them. I lowered it to create the basic program to make an easier point of entry. And then when they join the Black Belt Club, then they're back up to where I was at before.
Right. Yeah. But look at the revenue. Look at your student value and stuff, right?
Right.
So phenomenal job. And Mr. Birch, let's wait till all the polls come in before we figure out if he had more viewers than you. I love the competitiveness.
Well, if I have more viewers, he has to take me to lunch.
There you go. So you know what? Give it a week and we'll look at the tallies and we'll see who's in the lead.
All right.
Thank you, sir, so much. Thank you, everybody. We'll see everybody next week. Mr. Munding, thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.